It's 5:01. Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Allen, too.
Here.
Commissioner Pucci is absent. Commissioner Grace. Here. Commissioner Losey.
Here.
And Commissioner Slona.
Here. First item on the agenda is minutes of the previous meeting. The motion to accept.
Second.
Seconds. All in favor? Aye. Project updates, wastewater plant.
The wastewater treatment plant, what I have in your package is the invoice number 42. Obviously, it's been going on for about 3.5 years. The invoice is for $1.3 million for the month of February. Again, it's the 42nd invoice, so you can see a history of the payments that we've made to the contractor for the upgrades to the wastewater facility. Everything seems to be moving fairly well ahead. Again, the payments schedule, we're about 94% complete. We haven't paid anything on the debt service through the SRF program as of yet. Once the contract is complete, they're going to implement two separate loans for probably in the neighborhood of $37 million apiece, and we'll start paying that at some point in the future. The agenda for the meeting, April 1, is in your package. Most of the work ongoing is for the pump stations, Washington, Hollis, and then Joel Circle. The smaller ones are still ongoing as well, but they're pretty much wrapping up. In your package is the change order and the allowances. It just seems like we're fairly well on schedule. You got the completion dates for most. Again, all the work at the treatment facility should be done this month, with the pump stations lagging behind a little bit. And then you have the individual 143 items specifically. A lot of fun reading. Each item tells you where they are and what's the completion date, but again, things are moving pretty well. So the big issue is we're coming to the completion of the project. We haven't incurred any debt on this. Again, it's through the SRF, the Clean Water Trust, the State Revolving Fund Clean Water, and it appears they're gonna break the loans to 75 millish into 37 and change, and then we're gonna incur payments on that over the next 30 years for debt service. So, but things are going well, and it's a 2% interest loan, and we haven't paid a nickel yet, so overall, things are going well. That's all I have.
That's great. So by middle of June, should be all done.
We're hoping, yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Anyone any questions? Water treatment plants? Rick?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
No, sorry, you moved the chair.
The Water and Sewer Commission is in compliance with all federal state drinking water regulations. The water supply capacity as of yesterday was 85%. The average for this time of year is 85%. All town and contract full-time positions at the water treatment plant are currently filled. Now, I also see we want to discuss the Water Management Act drought restriction. So with our registration statements that were issued from DEP, Water Management Act office 2 years ago, there were stipulations in there that stated that based on the drought status as determined by the Massachusetts Environmental Secretary, that we were required to implement drought measures, conservation measures accordingly. So even though our reservoirs are pretty much full that we keep them, we always keep some freeboard, we'll probably get the maximum 87–88% the most. Because we don't want to have any flooding down the road that could result in the spillways overtopping and flooding homes and so forth. Even though that we are at the maximum level, since the latest drought indicator issued from the Environmental Secretary shows us that a level 2 drought, we are required to enforce water mains. And the only watering that is allowed at this point would be handheld of ornamental gardens and so forth. There's been no lawn watering, washing cars, etc. And it looks like to me the update's going to be issued on a monthly basis because we received one based on February 1st to March 1st. So that, like I said, determined based on the fact that we seem to be out of the drought, we might not receive that information for another month. It will have to enforce water bans. I drove up to the Ipswich River today. The water was flowing into the Topsfield parking lot.
I saw that, yeah.
So it's kind of tough to tell the people they can't move on with their watering, even though the Ipswich River's flowing into the Topsfield fairgrounds.
Yeah, so the reservoirs can be full, but there's still a watering ban, essentially.
Yeah, so we did appeal it, and the initial decision was against us, and there was an appeal on that decision today. We're still
Okay.
waiting from our attorney on that. And we'll have to see if we made any ground. And since there was not a stay placed during the appeal, we are obligated to enforce the stipulations in the registration statement.
Okay.
So.
Would you,
we stand right now.
would you be comfortable with doing some projections that when it's going to be back to the normal approach?
Like I said, I can tell you, our reservoirs, we had discussions going through the winter that I was very confident that we would have made a full recovery, and we have. But as far as what determination the environmental secretary will make, to me, I believe the drought is over with, because if you look on the Ipswich River gauge site, the flow is over the mean flow for this time of year. So it's above what the average flow is. So, I mean, I don't know what you need, what the criteria would be. You need it to be flooding our homes before you
Yeah.
consider.
So my question is, is that office send some people there to check our reservoir?
There's different, they send out, like one of the things, we actually report on our reservoir capacity. They take that in, like, there's certain towns in different regions that report that. They look at stream flow data. I don't know, but they possibly could look at soil samples. I don't know if it's
These do soil moisture,
Moisture samples.
groundwater. Groundwater's been the
groundwater
issue
tables
usually.
and so
'Cause
forth.
Because you're seeing something that they don't see, so that's just my point.
Yeah, from our individual perspective, we're ready to go. I
Right,
mean,
right.
We
Probably
had a
other-
drought, we told people not to use the water. We, even during the winter, because we weren't quite out of it until, last month, we started to rebound fast.
Right.
But we're all set to go, it's just a matter of how it all plays out.
So
This
there's,
is the first year that we're dealing with this. Now, the registration statements were issued 2 years ago, but we were required to comply after 2 years. So it was April 6th of 2023, and now it's April 6th of 2025, so this will be the first year dealing with this.
Okay. Any questions?
And the other thing, as I mentioned, the capital improvements at the wastewater treatment plant is 75 million. And Anthony's gonna talk about the CSO program, which is 200 million. So we're spending $275 million. That's not ARPA money, that's a loan. So we have to pay that back. Over 30 years at 2% interest, that's gonna be over $400 million. Over 30 years, that's gonna be $13 million of debt service that's gonna be added to the budget. Our budget is $36 million, so it's gonna add about probably 36% on the budget to pay for these projects. But yet, because the state took a regional approach of the drought management, we're gonna tell people, you can't water your lawn, but yet our reservoirs are at 78%.
Right.
Which we're not even taking water from the rivers now, because we can't. So we're at maximum capacity, but we're gonna tell them, you can't water your lawn, but we also have to pay the bank, because we're gonna be $400 million in debt, 13 million a year for the next 30 years. So it's a little bit frustrating.
This doesn't impact Gannon though, right? Because Gannon can use their water.
Yeah.
This time around, the
But-
process is-
Did they always, okay. I'm trying to think of the big users who use outdoor water. I mean, they
Yeah.
must be right up there.
Yeah, they exempt.
Got it.
They did exempt golf courses
Okay.
this time.
Yeah.
around. They did
Okay.
that.
All right, interesting.
are they like reservoirs that are low right now in the state? Is that what it is?
Not that, we already know Salem, Beverly is full, Worcester
Yeah.
is full, I'm not, we had a conference call with some other
Yeah.
public water supplies, they all seem to be doing very well.
Yeah,
But there is another factor to this, we still have to fill our reservoirs to try to make all arrangements to get through the summer and the fall, so that we don't run out of water in the fall, like really low. So we still have to fill our reservoirs out, but at the same time, we can't use the water. And what happens if we get a big rain event?
That's
if we have
right.
Flooding, so we can't just say, well, since we're gonna hit a drought restriction, we'll keep the reservoirs at 70%, and then in the fall, be down and have a water emergency.
10% less, right?
So, it's kind of.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
I just have one more thing to add to this. We also, this time of year, we do our flushing program,
Mm,
and that is for water quality for the system. So we've got to get clarification on if we can do, they're looking to push the flushing to the fall, which for our system would not be ideal.
Right.
We'd rather be doing it going into the summer months this time of year. That's why it was always set up that way. So this is the time we want to be doing the flushing and improve the water quality of the system.
so can you just explain why it's better to do it for us in the spring
So
versus fall?
just so as Rick mentioned, we've built up our system, so we use it while we have the water.
Got it.
Coming into the fall, we've gone through the summer, we don't know how dry the summer's gonna be or how bad the summer is.
Sure.
Going into the fall, we might be very low, and that would not be ideal with the flushing system.
Quantity, it's more
Yeah.
quantity related.
Got it.
Right, 'cause we average 85% for right now, and we
Yeah.
average 61% in October. So that's, 25% basically.
Yeah.
And you regulate it to the 85, right? Like, do you regulate it to the 85%?
We bring it up.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely,
That's the issue.
yes.
All right, thank you. All right, next up, CSO updates.
Thank you.
Oh, Anthony?
Thanks, Commissioner. So National Grid on April 8th has finally completed the electrical hookup to the pump station.
Wow,
There.
all right.
So the permanent power is there. Thune Construction has been in contact with our
That's
engineer
good.
from Stantec.
That's good.
Yes.
Yeah, they're starting to schedule the subcontractors to return and moving forward with the testing of the pump station. That would include remobilization, planning, scheduling, and then filling the wet well for testing. So we're looking at probably about a 4 to 6 weeks before we start doing that. So at least that's,
Okay.
that process is starting to move forward. As far as the other phase, the OSO phase, installing the pipe, National Grid again has finally de-energized the high voltage line on Bennett Street. So we're good to go from Astor Street to Commercial Street. And we're able to complete the installation of the 72-inch pipe, which is about 75% complete right now. One of the crews is installing box culvert. So instead of a round pipe going in, they put a box culvert. And the reason for that is to get the clearance under the sawdust force main that we have to cross under to get to the plant. So the work is progressing, both facets of the National Grid's issues that we were struggling with are now behind us. So we should be able to move forward with everything.
Nice. For the pump station, given that time, do you have a sense if it all works kind of along that timeline? Like the end is, can you see out and like when this would actually be done?
Well, probably 2 months.
2 months,
Two-
okay.
Yep.
So it's almost along the same timeline as the wastewater plant improvements,
Yeah.
in the end.
Yep, in 2 months, we'll probably have the, one of the lines, the Commercial Street drainage line will go into the pump station first.
Yep.
We'll run the pump station with just that one line, and then when Gioso finishes the 72, that's the bulk of the separation project that'll come in later.
Done. Wow, great. Any questions? Nope. Kings Beach?
So Eric's here, can update you on the Kings Beach, but this is the $1.15 million contract we awarded to BMC back in January 24, where we TV'd and cleaned and screened and dye tested and all 24 miles of pipe that's tributary to Kings Beach. So if a drop of rain hit any system in Lynn that gets to Kings Beach, we thoroughly investigated and we took out 3 or 4 services that were left in a drainage system. The old sewer that became the drain, so now that discharged to King Beach, but those have been removed. We're working on weekends to try to get the remaining few miles of pipe done, and things are going well. And that, Eric, why don't you take over and anything further?
So we've done 5 of the last 6 Saturdays. We finally had a weather cancellation this past Saturday with the wet weather. We're down to the bitter end. There's about a half mile of drain left on Essex, so the heavy clean. That's where we would have been on Saturday, we'll be there this Saturday, and then we think we have about 2 to 3 days left to complete kind of odds and ends, which might include some night work. We have had to get up to 3 police details in order to execute the work. And we have a couple segments where they've recommended we go at night instead of on Saturdays. So the goal is to have everything done that we can do by Memorial Day in terms of cleaning and inspection. Next week, we will be out to try and take advantage of the school vacation week to do more dye test canvassing down around the middle school. We still have about half the properties down in those potentially impacted areas, just to try and get into those properties for more dye testing. So we're gonna try and make use of next week for that.
So sorry, can you just sort of explain what the high school area there's
Around the middle school. So we identified a lot of the side streets down off that feed into the old Stacy Brook. Just Empire, Williams, and there's a couple others kind of along just north of the middle school. A lot of those are old, like Dan said, old converted sewer that's now drained, but we saw evidence and have had samples that have come back hot in that area. So we
Okay.
want to try and get in and dye test, and generally we've been having more luck going door to door than trying to wait for people to schedule appointments.
Can you explain for the lay people like me what you mean by the old sewer infrastructure that's now drained?
So what is currently drainage in that area just north of the MBTA tracks in the middle school, was at once upon a time a combined sewer. And when the sewer separation project came in, the commission repurposed all the combined sewer, became drain, and new sewer was installed. So there are still remnants of old tap connections and everything that have shown some signs of leakage and stuff like that that may or may not be connected to any properties. So we ended up having whole streets we wanted to dye test. We've been going door to door instead of when we hit a hot spot and it's only 2 or 3 houses, we do targeted appointments. This is more just going door to door trying to get into properties. So it'll be a representative from Apex and one from the commission going door to door next week.
Great. And it says you all might have found an illicit connection as well?
Yeah, we're still following up on one that it's, again, same thing. It was evidence in the drain. The sewer was cambered the following weekend and didn't find anything conclusive that shouldn't have been in the sewer. So it might be a legacy or a new connection that was made post-separation.
Is it a single family home or is it?
It might be a unit within a multi-family unit. But it has two active taps, one in the sewer and one suspect one in the drain.
So when we do conventional design bid build, we hire a contractor and we design drainage systems. So then they put in the catch basin and the drains, so it's pretty straightforward. It's very difficult to interconnect the two systems. In the 90s, we put a design build contract out. Pat McManus came on the board, the former mayor. He put a design build, and Viola, US Filter, was the low bidder, and they decided the sewer separation, the design build process was gonna be about 80% new drains and 20% sewers. So what they did, the sewers were shallower, easy to put in. The problem is you get a brand new sewer and the old sewer is converted to a drain. The problem is every single service connection from the homes have to be taken out of the old sewer and put in the new sewer, because the old sewer is gonna be converted to a drain. If you miss a few homes, then that sewer pipe that sewer service remains in the old sewer, which is a drain, and going to Kings Beach.
Gotcha.
So that's the problem. 25 years ago, we didn't really think about that too much, and they saved us a lot of money in their conventional, in their design build price. But that's where our system is most susceptible to illicit connections, because they used to be in the sewer, and it was converted. A lot of them are like rear houses, so you have like 17R on Lewis Street, and it's a house in back. So it's not as apparent that you have a service to a regular home. So that's where we find the problem.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you. Congratulations to you guys. Because since we started adding Kings Beach to our agenda, we can see that we can track the progress of Lynn's contribution to the effort. And there's a lot of neighborhood meetings either here in Lynn and in Swampscott. And it makes me proud to say that, you know, when it's Lynn's turn, we gave all of this data and you represent us. So just want to say thank you. We appreciate the effort and the work.
You know, it seemed from in the public session that the public that was in attendance seemed to appreciate all the
Correct.
city and the commission's efforts.
Thank you, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I was gonna say,
I read your
no,
mind.
I thought at the mid-March meeting, public meeting, I thought Eric and Neil did a great job
Right.
representing the commission. And I know Jared and the others, Mayor Nicholson and the others were happy with the water commission's work on this. So Dan and Anthony and everybody, the whole team, I thought it came across really well.
I was
Neil and
also,
Eric answered all the questions,
Right.
so that was really helpful.
I was also at the select board meeting in Swampscott, and they just all praise us about Lynn and your efforts. So I just want you guys to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's noticed.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good job.
All right, budget schedule?
Yeah, this is Ryan, it's just a proposed fiscal year 26 budget schedule. We pass it out every year.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yep, everything's on track. So the department heads, at the end of today, will have a budget package for fiscal year 26. Seems weird to say, but here we are. But it's following all the same schedule. I'll be meeting with the department heads and superintendents the week of April 22nd to 25th. So we'll go over the past budget, how that went, and complete the data that we have. And then we're on a timeline for getting a proposed draft. So this is a budget, this is a capital improvement plan,
Yep.
and the rate proposal for fiscal year 26. So those packages will go to, I believe this Friday, May 9th, those will go to the city council and the mayor's office, as well as will go in your packages. So that proposed budget, capital improvement, and rate proposal will be in packages for the May meeting.
Okay.
Nothing has to be done. The vote ultimately would be in June.
Yep.
So, this process, here we are.
Yeah.
Ryan, I have a question, Mr. Chair. So when we advertise our public hearings, how do we advertise it again? Because I remember last year it was kind of quiet here for
We
public.
post, City Hall, we post in the paper, and I believe we put it on our website.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
say believe because I don't have it in.
Yes.
So it's on the website, yeah.
How active is our social media marketing? Do we have a team that does all our social media?
No,
Because those are
this is it.
free
Dan's
advertising.
I follow
This is the
Dan on
team.
Twitter. Yeah.
Do you have a, I don't
No,
even
I'm
know.
trying to.
I don't have you on Twitter or anything.
Dan.
No, this is the team. I think Bob Fennell can handle most of that. He's a social media wizard.
Thank you.
Sure.
No, I'm just saying, let's take advantage of that avenue. It's free. Everybody's there, including my grandma's there. So just think it over for future.
We might be able to partner with the city as well in the past.
True, yeah. Can we do that?
At City Hall,
Yeah,
the
like,
Polson.
yeah, they have a director on communications, so.
Share the information with them to,
Yeah.
to amplify.
Yeah, she likes to create posters and stuff as well.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
almost done.
thanks, Ryan. Next up is promulgation of new regulations. Sam, do you want to speak to your memo?
Yes, your predecessors, many years ago, adopted rules and regulations, and they have served us well. They control the relationship between our customers and the commission. And on occasion, we get questioned either by a user or customer, and generally we deal with that sort of one-on-one. Because the greatest rule that they ever adopted is that if you accept our services, you're bound by a contract, and that contract says you accept our rules and regulations. So there are rules and regulations for the water system, the sewer system, industrial discharge. And from time to time, as I say, we get inquiries, people taking non-flushable items and putting them down the system, and can we penalize them? People who won't let us on the property, do we have a right to enter private property? So it generally works out, and the rules have served us well. Recently, the water department superintendent told me about some problems he was having enforcing one of the rules, which Dan alluded to. We don't want houses front and back on one line for service, nor does the fire department. So our rules are subject to outside forces like federal law, state law, technology changes. And so with respect to our rule that says you must install at a certain point either the age of the system, or it's been out and off, or you're doing a major renovation, and that's what triggered the water superintendent's question, which is related to what the fire department had asked of us in terms of, so the question came from him about what people are saying, well, I'm not doing a renovation. And so I explored looking, and I talked with also the sewer superintendent about we might be able to parallel what the city system is with respect to the issuance of building permits, which speaks for itself. If you're doing a major project and you get a building permit, then we've got some corroborating evidence that you're doing a major renovation. So that was the first instance. Then the second was the governor succeeded in putting through what's called accessory dwelling units, ADUs. And that was signed in August under the Affordable Housing Act. It kicked in February, and on February 11th, the city of Lynn, the city council adopted an amendment to the zone ordinance that regulated ADUs. At that point in time, there were only like 12 applications, and they were for all attached. So if you're attached, if you put granny in the garage or you put somebody in the basement, well, that's one service. But the law allowed detached, and they had certain regulations. So now if you put a separate building on the same lot, the question was, can we compel people to put in a new line for water and sewer? And the state promulgated a regulation, which I had looked at, I had talked with Dan about, which would have allowed us, even if the city decided not to go that route, we could have adopted under the state regulation, a rule. But the city went the route of, they took the same definitions, and the definition says you have to have sanitary facilities. Well, sanitary facilities is water and sewer. So Dan was able, with the building commissioner, Mike Donovan, they came to an understanding that at that point in time, there had not been any applications for detached units. But the building commissioner took the position that we thought we should have, which is that sanitary means you have to have a separate service. He said that ISD would enforce that. It's in the city's regulation with respect to ADUs. So that one, which we were anticipating might present a problem because we had never been confronted with that before, got resolved between Dan and the building commissioner. But that's not to say that someday going forward, either the federal government, the state government's going to adopt something, and we got to look at it in relationship to our rules. But our rules have served us well. But since that was the case, I just wanted to review how it would be. Would it be necessary to change a specific rule? And so, as to John's question about the definition of renovation, I'm going to work with him and maybe give him an opinion that bolster him, because he had a little bit of a go out here with somebody about whether they needed to do what we asked, which is put in a separate service. The city's in the process right now of adopting 87 pages of new codification of all the zoning changes. So those things happen. The state can adopt a new program, or the federal government can do something on industrial waste. We just got to keep pace. If and when that were to occur, then I'll tell you, I look back because I thought that we might have to, quote, have a separate public hearing, but I think I concluded that as long as, and the good news is the power to change any of the rules is vested in the commissioners. And so it would be subject to open meeting law regulations. People would have an opportunity to be given notice that we were contemplating changing a rule. They could participate. But right now, the two immediate things that led me to write this have been sort of resolved by resolution between either the agency. What I sort of looked at is, it's not so much the rules, it's the application of the rules. And that's where when we run into somebody who's throwing things down the sewer that shouldn't be there, and we become aware of it, we want them to stop. Well, we've got a rule that deals with that. We just got to enforce the rule. And the rules give us the ability to find people and to do that. So as I say, the best rule they ever adopted, it's sort of like the greatest commandment in Holy Week. It's, if you cite our service, you play by our rules.
One question I have, and it's come up at the public meeting last month, and it came up separately at a different event I was at, where people are asking the question if the city or we would or could require inspection of the sewer lateral upon transfer of real estate.
Well, I think we could adopt a rule that would allow that.
So that could be within our jurisdiction, if we want, just throwing, just.
You're right.
the
But see,
questions come up.
the other thing is that I don't think for one rule, I mean, if, at some point, if we looked at it, we ought to look like they did at the zoning, the whole package,
Yeah.
not just one item.
Yeah,
But credit the people who came before, because the system has really worked very, very well.
Do we have that manpower here? Because we're opening.
oh, I don't even, I would just
open
even know if you legally had the,
Yeah.
even you had the option. That's a
Right.
whole it's a whole can of worms.
Because the state law covers everything. When we did the city part, is we did cleanup. We're basically in sync with what the state law is doing. I wasn't thinking about Lynn Water at the time. I'm glad that you did this research here and Dan, because now it makes sense, really. If they're going to open, if you can build an extension within your property, which now is allowed by law, then that includes.
More customers.
Yeah, I'm glad you did this. What do you want us to do with this one?
Well, I think that right now, going forward, I'm gonna deal with it as that we have in the past, on a case-by-case basis. But I do think there may come a time that you'll have to look at all the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just for information. Sam hasn't been on the camera in a long time, so he just wanted to get some camera time. So,
I haven't been on here.
Yeah, anytime.
Qualify that with here.
okay.
Vinnie?
Do they allow septic systems and artesian wells and all that stuff in the city limits?
Sure.
They think they can? I mean, that's an option for a homeowner, right?
Yeah, the skating rink tried to do it down on Commercial, down on the Linway.
Yeah.
They hit salt water and they had problems. Doesn't go well with ice.
Wow.
Our rules and regulations state that if you're within 100 feet of a public sewer, you must tie it.
100 feet?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's our regulations.
And that one comes up with new developments often.
Is there a record somewhere of all the properties that do have septic systems?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that maintained by us or?
Yeah, they're not getting built.
Free water and sewer?
No, not free water.
Oh,
Oh,
I mean, that's,
well, artesian well, right?
Yeah, but
We have 40 million loan.
I thought we were talking wastewater. Yeah, if they had a well, they would get free water, but
No.
wastewater, we would. All good.
right.
Thank you, Sad.
Yes, Sam, that was really helpful, thank you. Any other questions? Any other new business?
Nope.
Nope. All right, someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Second. Meeting adjourned.
Oh, first, yeah, second.
Thank you.
That's fine. That much.